documents. They won't mean anything to you now, but we'll get to that. So if you guys can take one and pass it around. I hope I made enough copies.
And who is this, Jacob Wohl or somebody else?
Standing next to me is Jacob Wohl.
Okay.
Yes, sir. We'll just take a few minutes until everybody can get one. I hope there's enough.
We're going to set the record straight here, and then we're going to take some questions from the media afterwards, so hold your questions till the end. Looks like those are moving the regulars back.
I was circulating. We may run out again. Sorry.
Forward.
I'm sure it'll be going on.
Don't touch me, Claude. I will flop you.
You all want me? Here we go. Here's the one.
Oh, there we go. Here, take mine. Everybody in this room have one? Take the top one. Yeah, and then go into it. Here, two for you.
Oh, sorry. How are we doing with copies? Is everybody getting one?
You still need some in
Can
the
you pass
back.
those back when you're ready?
Which ones?
Both back
Both?
again, yeah.
That's it. In the big box. You want this too?
Yeah.
All right, here you go.
Thank you very much.
All right, I think everybody has one. Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jack Burkman. This is Jacob Wohl, who is my partner in this important investigation. I'd like to begin, before we get to the substance of anything, by observing a moment of silence for my friend Glenn Seelig. Many of you knew Glenn. He was one of the best PR guys in the world. He was with me for many, many years. Seelig Multimedia. Glenn was tragically killed in Afghanistan on January 20th, 2018. Many of you knew him. So if you would, let us observe a moment of silence in Glenn's honor. Before we get to the main event, which are the accusations of our client, Caroline Cass, before we get to that, you now have a copy of the accusations and the specific averments. I want to talk, and Jason and I will, Jacob and I will both talk about the backstory here. There has developed in the last week, as I'm sure all of you have noticed, a rather tragic and sad backstory that somehow I or Jacob or others paid or attempted to pay some woman for coming forward. None of this is true. And let me take you through the emails people are talking about. There's one woman named Lorraine Parsons. Lorraine Parsons apparently does not exist. No journalist has ever talked to her. It's a fake person. So I think we can dismiss with that. The other woman does exist. Her name is Jennifer Toe. Apparently she has received an email from a person who does not exist, a person by the name of Simon something, I think it's Simon Frick, on a proton mail. Now, I will tell you, proton mail, as you may know, as you can see, I'm a very sophisticated guy, I carry a flip phone, but even I know how to create a proton mail. I think any college kid, any campaign worker, for that matter, any high school kid that's smart can go in and create a proton mail. So I think when you have one woman who doesn't exist and another woman receiving emails from a person who doesn't exist, I think all of you would agree, I'm sure, we can safely dispense with this backstory. Why it's being reproduced, I'll never know. I think every cable channel in the country ran with the story without talking to Lorraine Parsons. Of course, they can't talk to Lorraine Parsons because she's fake. So I don't know what else really to say about that, except that none of it is true. Now, on to our client, Caroline Cass. Caroline has received, and Jacob will tell you a lot about this, has received a number of threats. She is frightened for her life, and will not be with us today. We will have a future date very soon where she will be with us. What we have given you today are the specific averments of her allegations against Bob Mueller. Now, basically, what she is alleging is that a rape took place at some point during the week of August 2nd, 2010, in New York City. You will see the averments going through if you have a chance to read them. Jacob's going to take you through them in 1 second. The other document that you have is information about the special counsel's schedule that week. Now, we believe the special counsel has released some information, or I'm not sure, he or someone has released information that he was on jury duty that week. That is not true. He was at a cyber conference in New York, and the dates match up exactly with what our client is alleging. Now, Jacob will take you through the specific averments of the allegations, and then we will do questions.
Sure.
Jacob.
So I think it's important to begin with how Ms. Cass came upon me, came upon this entire thing. I want to answer as many of your questions before they're asked as I can. Ms. Cass hired my firm, Surefire Intelligence, to handle an estate matter for her earlier this year. Matter of a dishonest accountant. She wanted to look at the numbers and figure out what had taken place. We dealt with it. It was a raging success, and we moved on. Didn't hear much from her. On September 15th or thereabouts, she saw a news report in which Bob Mueller was featured. Upon seeing that news report, and she's not a person who's into politics, never voted, not a political person, not into politics. But upon seeing his face on one of the seldom occasions that she watches the news, she knew that that was the man. That was the man whom she met at the St. Regis Hotel during the week of August 2nd, 2010. She then reached out to me because she knew that I had the wherewithal to parse through this and figure out whether or not there was anything to it, maybe she was wrong, and I immediately took a skeptical stance. My default position is to not believe the women. I think that the burden of proof is on the accuser. I've been very clear about that. You've all seen that on my Twitter feed. We've seen ridiculous allegations in the past few months where people don't remember where something happened. They don't remember when something happened. For all we know, they were never there. And so my default position is not to believe.
Let me add one thing, Jacob. I want to add one thing. Jacob has,
Microphone,
Oh,
please.
sure. Let me add one thing here. Sorry, I want to add one thing. I can tell you from having observed that Jacob and his firm went through the most intense vetting of any woman in one of these situations, and I've represented other women in these situations, as you know, that I have ever seen. And it went on for a long, long time. And Jacob is, and I have seen it with my own eyes, he very much, we came at this disbelieving, and we came at it with extreme skepticism.
And that's right. And so we went point by point. When? Where? Who else was there? Can I speak to that person? I did speak to that person. We went through every meticulous detail of her allegation. We cross-referenced it with public records. We joined historical societies to get some of those records. And we determined that the accusation was credible, or we wouldn't be here today. This has nothing to do with politics. Ms. Cass is not a political person. I am a political person. It's about getting the truth out. And what we have seen is that following Ms. Cass's distribution of what happened, following her telling her story, we have seen the media breathlessly report accusations that we offered to pay women. And who's making these accusations? Like Jack said earlier, people who apparently in one case don't exist, in another case a woman who received an email from a person who doesn't exist asking to talk on the phone with her. Very strange stuff. But we know what this is about. We don't have to pretend that we're surprised. This is an attempt by the media to do the bidding of Robert Mueller. So Ms. Cass's accusation is in front of you. It's in voluminous detail. And it checks out, top to bottom. This accusation is serious, and it's one which will be dealt with. Currently, we are, and Jack is more the expert on this, being a lawyer, working through channels to report this to law enforcement. Of course, what we've seen is that Robert Mueller has ordered the FBI to go after the accusers. And just for a moment, imagine if someone else, say President Trump, ordered the FBI to investigate accusers. Would never happen. It would be wrong. But Robert Mueller has now ordered the FBI to go after his accusers, to investigate his accusers, totally outside of his jurisdiction, completely outside of his power. One of the more scary and disturbing things, and that's why, among other reasons, among the blow-up dolls, among other things, that Ms. Cass is not here today. This circus that has been orchestrated by the media based on anonymous, and for all we can tell, hoax allegations of offers of payment.
One thing here, I want to, Jacob does a great job laying it out. I would point out that the statements made by Mr. Mueller earlier this week, which triggered the media frenzy, were really perhaps the first and only time he has ever responded to anything in his entire tenure as special counsel, or frankly, even in his many years as director of the FBI. This guy, as you know, doesn't respond to much. But he very quickly responded to this, and not only responded, but directed the FBI, as Jacob said, to investigate the accusers. Imagine, we were talking about this earlier, imagine if Donald Trump had sent the FBI after the accusers in the Kavanaugh case. He didn't. It was the opposite. But just imagine the frenzy and the reaction.
That's right. And of course, the women, many of whom who accused President Trump of wrongdoing, turned out they were paid by Gloria Allred to the tune of $750,000. So finally, there were no offers of payment. There were no wrongdoing. There was no bribery. There was nothing illegal or untoward or unethical that took place here. This is about helping a young woman to air out her accusations against a very powerful man. And she's been ruthlessly attacked. Her integrity has been attacked. Her story has been attacked. She's been made to look like somebody who is accepting payment, like she's some sort of stooge, which is completely and utterly ridiculous. This is a person of unimpeachable character, well-educated, well-liked, well-networked, a prominent person, not a political stooge. So, unless you have anything else to say here, Jack, I think we ought to open up to
Well, why don't we do this? Let's take them through, with your expertise and all, let's take them through the averments.
Sure.
Let's march through the averments.
So as I mentioned in the beginning, around September 15th, Ms. Cass contacted me and my firm with this story. This, at the time, what I thought, unbelievable story that happened at the St. Regis Hotel. According to her, while at the bar, she began talking to a man, an older man. She was there with a friend, and this man began to hit on her.
We don't know exactly the date that week. We know it's that week. We don't know the date.
Right.
September 15th was your?
That's when she approached you? That's right. That's right.
Well, one thing I'm going to add, that during the week, we don't know the week of August 2nd, 2010. We don't know exactly. She didn't.
Microphones.
Okay, sorry guys. We don't know exactly the day that week this happened. She remembers the week. Her recollection is not clear enough to remember the precise day. We can tell you it's that week.
Can we ask questions while you're talking?
Let Jacob march through the verbs.
Ms. Cass declined Mr. Mueller's sexual advances, and she moved over, according to her account, one bar stool as to create space between herself and Mr. Mueller. Upon scooting over, he then scooted over to move himself closer to her. In an attempt to intimidate her, he mentioned to her that he worked for the FBI. At first, he just said he was a cop who was in town for a conference. Again, these are details that Ms. Cass brought to us that really seemed too specific to be false. Intimidated by Mr. Mueller and physically pulled by her hand towards the elevator, she decided that it would be wise not to make a scene, not to cause a problem. She walked about 30 feet towards the elevator with Mr. Mueller, and they went up the elevator to what she says was a suite on the 19th floor of the hotel. She went to his hotel room, a suite. She said it was medium-sized, rather nicely adorned, after which Mr. Mueller allegedly poured her a drink. She doesn't remember what it was precisely. She said it was a brown drink. Maybe it was whiskey. Maybe it was brandy. Not sure. After that, Mr. Mueller asked her to lay down in the bed. She knew where this was going. It wasn't good. She asked him, in an effort to maybe shame him and get him to back off, she asked him, "Are you married?" He then held up his hand authoritatively and said no, pointing to his left hand. She also didn't see a ring on his right hand. He then grabbed her by the shoulders, according to her account, and tossed her onto the bed. At this point, she knew the situation was dangerous, and she did not attempt to physically resist, although she did yell, and after she yelled, according to her, he took the comforter that was on the bed, grabbed it, and placed it over her mouth. She stopped resisting at this point, and at that point, she was brutally raped. It lasted about 5 or 10 minutes, according to her account, although she can't be entirely sure. And when he was finished, she got off the bed, she grabbed her high heels in one hand, and she ran out of the room barefoot. She then entered the elevator, putting her heels on while she was there, and rushed home as quickly as she could. Upon getting home, she took a shower. She said she was in the shower for some time. And after taking a shower, she called her friend to let her friend know that this was not a date with an older man to see what it was like. This had gone horribly, horribly wrong, and something horrible had happened. Fearing retaliation from this man who claimed to be a cop, she wasn't sure what kind of cop he was, said he was in the FBI, but fearing retaliation, Ms. Cass did not report this to the police, although she's looking at avenues to do that. As we speak, she's working with Jack here, and she's looking into that. This trauma has stayed with her for some time. It's clear that that's the case, and she believes it's time to get it out and expose really what has happened here by a man who is in an incredibly powerful position, perhaps no position in law enforcement more powerful. So to finalize, Ms. Cass's accounts are detailed, they are credible, they comport with third-party accounts, and they comport with both publicly available information and information that is not publicly available. We've spoken to a large number of experts, a large number of witnesses outside of this in order to verify Ms. Cass's account. It's no surprise to me, it's no surprise to Jack, just how serious something like this is. But after vetting this account, spending a month and a half doing so, we're here today, and we're here to answer any questions that you have. And please, try to respect Ms. Cass's dignity.
I want to add one thing.
Sure.
Jacob, you have an honorary law degree from Harvard, and you've done a great job laying it out. I would say, the one thing I would add, I find it interesting that the special counsel is already defending himself prior to our press conference. He's leaking and or putting out, I don't know which, that he was on jury duty that week. Again, I want to stress, he attended a cyber conference that week, as you have documentation proving. So I guess at this time now we open the floor up to your many questions.
Yeah, just so everyone can see, you can find the
Sir.
press release on
In the pink.
Hi there. Have you been contacted by the FBI? Have you either been contacted by the FBI?
No.
No, and no.
No. And I don't think we will. I don't think the Bureau would embarrass itself by calling us talking about people that don't exist.
It's right there.
Jacob, your Twitter feed before Ms. Cass contacted you was already full of tweets very critical of Robert Mueller. One of them suggested he should be sent off to Guantanamo Bay. So were you sort of predisposed to, take the first charge that sounded halfway credible to you and just run with it?
It's no secret that I've been a critic of Robert Mueller and of the special counsel's investigation. But like I said, I approached this accusation with incredible skepticism. I figured it would take me all of 5 minutes, and I would debunk it and toss whatever I had heard into the trash and never think about it again.
We're both, yeah. Are we both conservatives? Yes. Do we like Bob Mueller? No. Have we both been critical of him? Sure. Sir, in the blue.
When did you found Surefire Intelligence?
That's a question for me.
Yeah, how old is this stuff?
Sure. I started doing one-off kind of investigation jobs for fun with some associates.
Well, it's an LLC. When did you incorporate the LLC?
There's several corporate structures that have been used. The latest LLC that we've used, we reincorporated in Delaware a month or two ago. I'm not sure its name.
Mr. Will.
Will.
Sure. First of all, I want to stress, no one is questioning Ms. Cass's account here. We didn't know her name until 20 minutes ago. Okay. We're questioning you two, both very uncredible people. And here's what I want to know.
No, why do you say we're uncredible?
Well, this is like the 5th press conference I've been to yours that has, you have all the separate stuff, whatever. My question is for Jacob. Why were you so shady about Surefire Intelligence? You told one of our reporters you didn't run it. There was this alias. There's all these made-up people. What's going on there?
The investigation at that point was still in flux, and it was important that I preserve my anonymity as I move through it. It's no secret that this is a matter of sensitive and great sensitive nature and of great import, and it was important that I was able to preserve my uninvolvement of this as I was finalizing the final details. Being able to walk through LAX without being hounded or assailed or have balloons put up like we see here today.
Then why are you doing this now? Then why are you doing a press conference now?
Let me say this.
Wait, so you're admitting you lied to us?
Well, let me
You admitted you lied to us about
I mean, I'm going to her first.
But if you want your anonymity, then why are you doing this press conference now? Like, you could have just gone to the New York Police Department, right? Or
Well,
Miss
a lot
Cass
of
could
that
have
is
gone
up,
to
a
the New
lot
York
of that
Police
is up to
Department.
Caroline. At the time, she made a decision for whatever reason. We didn't know her at the time to not report it to police.
But is she reporting it to police now? Like, are you going to the cops
Yes,
if this is real?
we're in the process of doing that now. Let me say something about.
When do you expect that to be wrapped up?
Let me say something to Will's question. We have a lot on the table. Will said, talking about uncredible. One thing he may be referring to, last year I represented Reese Everson in a similar situation. Reese was a no-show one time and then came a month later. The one thing you all have to understand is, and I don't think the press does, how incredibly difficult this is for young women, especially young women. And Caroline's 34 years old. She's not 54 years old. And for a young woman to go through this, who's not a media person, who's not a political person, to come into a room like this, everybody should think about how difficult that is, and then you will know why she's vomiting last night. Think about that. Put that in your head for a minute. In the blue.
Thank you. Do you have any corroborating evidence you're willing to share of Miss Cass and Mr. Mueller at the bar room in August of 2010?
Now,
Sure.
Go
I'll
right
address this question. A friend of Miss Cass's has confirmed that she was there with Miss Cass visiting the bar and saw Miss Cass, what she assumed was commiserating. She was at some distance away, maybe 15, 20 feet away. She saw them talking, couldn't really read the situation, is uncomfortable, and then saw her kind of being led up to the hotel. She figures
like CCTV or receipts.
No, we've looked for that, but unfortunately, after 8 years, it's very tough to ascertain a lot of that physical evidence. That's part of why. Excuse me. That's part of why we are going through and being very detailed in a police report. As you know, a police report is no joke, and we take it very seriously. And so we're gathering as much physical evidence as we can, not just with this accuser, but with other accusers that have come
So
forward.
This is ongoing.
When is the police report supposed to be filed?
Probably, I would think, by the end of this week.
Yeah, we have to see. A lot of that is up to my client. All I can tell you is the investigation is ongoing.
I'm sorry, the end of next week, next Friday.
You filed that,
Within 7
because
days.
you filed that with NYPD, correct?
We have not done it yet. A lot of those decisions are up to my client. I'm just the lawyer. We are still in the process of gathering evidence. We wanted to bring this out now after the vetting of Caroline was complete, but do not infer that the investigation is a long way from complete. We have tentacles out in all directions
And
gathering evidence.
just quickly, before we move on to the next question, I will add that in the wake of this press storm, hundreds of people have contacted us, some of them with joking allegations, others trying to convince us their allegations were real. And we've gone through each of those, and in some cases in 2 minutes, tossed them out. In other cases, it's taken us a lot longer. We're very careful about this. Given the press coverage, given Mr. Mueller's position, lots of women will be expected to say things now. And so we have other women who are 90% of the way there, where we're almost sure they're not lying. But we got to get the rest of the way there. We have to be sure that what they're saying is true.
Let's go with the woman in the black.
Hey, so did she change the date? Wasn't it originally October? And then one more question. Did she give you permission to use her name, or is she, when she flaked on the press conference?
Answers are no and yes. No, it's been the week of August 2nd throughout, and yes, of course, we have permission.
Is she going to speak to the
In
press?
the meantime.
Sorry.
Oh, yes.
You had one more question?
We will plan a follow-up press conference at which she will.
We've just got to be, security is distressed here. There's been many death threats. I've received hundreds of them. Hundreds of death threats. People have threatened to come here and cause harm. Lunatics have shown up, as we can see based on the display out in the parking lot. And so it's something that we're deeply concerned with, and it's about having this eventual testimony before the public of this accuser in a safe environment.
I as well have received death threats, not hundreds, but probably a dozen of them, and we have doubled the guard around myself and my family.
So you've talked about
Jack?
The red tie, sorry.
Yeah, thank you. You suggested earlier that the special counsel has leaked information that was on jury duty in August 2010. There's an item in the Washington Post from that day that spots him. It's one of those sightings around town columns that shows someone saw him at jury duty on that date. Are you suggesting the special counsel planted a story in the Washington Post 9 years
You have
ago?
information. in front
Hang on,
of you.
hang on 1 second.
Did you uncover that as part of your investigation?
Hang on 1 second. So, the Washington Post reported that Mr. Mueller, they re-reported that Mr. Mueller was at jury duty as to discredit this accuser. That's why they re-reported it. That's why it's going around.
Jacob,
But
the
real
story
quick,
is
real quick,
dated
excuse me.
August 3rd, 2010.
Excuse me. Rather than double checking and saying, wait a second, was he only at jury duty? Sometimes people go to jury duty, but they're also somewhere else. Was he only at jury duty? No, hang on, it's not funny. This is not a laughing matter. Instead of double checking what he was doing and finding out, oh, wait a second, Robert Mueller was in New York. Instead of doing that, the media cherry-picked the fact that he had jury duty, spotted around town, and they used that to attempt to discredit this very credible accuser.
We didn't know about it.
So it was so 10 years ago, someone planted that story to discredit you 10 years later?
Hi, I just want to clarify something you told me yesterday when we talked on the phone. I'm Tierney, by the way. We talked on the phone.
Oh, you're Tierney.
Hi.
Uh-huh.
I was the one who asked you yesterday about the Washington Post story, and you told me yesterday that you hadn't heard about it at that point when I brought it up. So had you heard about it in your guys'?
I really don't know. Here's what I think. I don't remember. We don't remember the date at which we learned about the story. Here's what I can tell you. The answer is I just don't know and don't
Didn't you
remember.
just say that you had heard about it during your
Let me clarify. I think I don't want to get a forest and trees problem here. Let's focus on the trunk and not the leaves. We have information in front of you showing where Mueller was that week. August 2nd through 5th, he was at the cybersecurity conference. You can see that. You can see that. That's the FBI's own release. So I think that puts to rest all the rest of its noise and nonsense. Whatever the Post reported is irrelevant. You have proof in front of you.
But this doesn't prove it. This
It's
doesn't.
a picture. It's a picture.
And it in no way proves which day he was there. It doesn't prove that he was there the whole time. All it says he was one of the speakers at the conference.
Jack, you said on October 20th that you had 7 women who had attested to sexual harassment and sexual assault claims against Robert Mueller.
That's right.
Now you're only saying one. So you have 7 or 1?
Okay, as I just mentioned, there are different,
or hundreds.
There are different stages of vetting that take place here. Of those 7 that Mr. Burkman aforementioned, 4 of them have been found to be not telling the truth by our own
But
investigation.
you already announced you had 7.
So we did. We had 7 reports. That's
so
correct. Now 4 have been discredited,
so
and 3 remain.
So you're rolling it back. So you didn't have 7.
There were 7, and now there's 3 because 4 of them have been discredited. That's what we want to do. We want to discredit false allegations and bring forth true allegations.
But I'm saying, so I'm asking you announced you had 7 without having vetted them.
All right, we're going to take 3 more questions. Let's see what we've got here.
Can you explain the timing? Why come forward now? Was there a different plan of when you were going to announce this? Why are you doing this now?
Yeah, the key here was to get all of the facts, and a lot of this stuff just takes time. You talk to sources, they don't have things ready for you for 3 or 4 days, and you end up waiting around before you can complete a report, before you can prove everything, before you can go back and double check your work.
Did Ms. Cass have a plan for when she wanted to do it?
No, what the prerogative was is to get all of the facts and then bring them out as soon as possible. So as soon as we felt that we were comfortable, we got a conference space as soon as we could, and now we're here.
But wait, I have a question. Back up. So you're 20 years old, Jacob, right? You're 20 years old. Describe to me your investigative experience. And when did you get this honorary Harvard Law degree?
I was kidding.
You're kidding. That's a joke.
You can laugh. You can laugh.
Okay, so you're 20 years old. What is your background as a professional investigator?
Like I said, I've done a handful of matters. I've done a handful of matters like this over the years. My mission here is not to establish a narrative. It's not to follow an agenda.
Wait a minute.
It's to bring hang on. It's to bring forth the facts and let the facts speak for themselves, and that's what we've done.
Wait, one last question. This is important.
How did Ms. Cass
Where was Mueller's security detail on the day he was hitting on this woman in the
Before
bar?
we get to that, I'm going to respond to your question about Jacob's age. I can tell you, I'm 52 years old, and in my 52 years, Jacob is one of the brightest and most capable and competent people I've ever met. So no one should engage in age discrimination where you say that just because a person is 20 means they're, Jacob's a lot smarter than I am, and I'm 52 and went to law school at Georgetown. So let me tell you that I think Jacob is a child prodigy that has eclipsed Mozart. That's
You can't even open an E-Trade account.
Is the whole point of this to discredit Bob Mueller, and if that is the case, do you really think that would shut down the Russia investigation?
No, the point of this is not to discredit anyone. The point of this is to get to the truth. And the media, I don't know why, but there is this terrible sense of anytime conservatives are seeking the truth, they're somehow evil.
But
what we want is less heat and more light.
Jacob, you previously attacked Christine Blasey Ford for not going to the authorities, but for going to the media and and you said that she should not be. You suggested she shouldn't be believed because she didn't go to the authorities first. She went to the media. You're doing the exact same thing.
I got you. Let me be very clear. Christine Blasey Ford should not be believed. Her allegation happened 36 years ago. Hang on. Can you let me answer the question?
Yeah, answer the question.
I just want to make sure that your presupposition is confirmed by me, okay? So Christine Blasey Ford should not be believed. Her allegation was 36 years ago. She doesn't remember where it happened, when it happened, who it happened with, who drove her home. Her allegation is not even in the same league as this allegation. So I really beg to differ upon this. So why did I say she should have filed a police report and not Ms. Cass? Ms. Cass didn't file a police report. That's the fact of the matter. She came to us September 15th. We've now verified the facts, and now that police report is going to happen. I mean, you can only do things in order.
For going to the media, and your clients going to the media without having filed a police report? I'm trying to understand.
Sure.
You suggested that was a reason that she was not credible.
I hear you.
And now your client has not, to my understanding, gone to the police yet.
Christine Blasey Ford was allegedly assaulted by a teenager. Caroline was allegedly assaulted by the director of the FBI. Now, to compare the two is frankly insulting to everyone's intelligence.
Did you compare the two?
Hang on.
Why? Isn't assault?
It's insulting to everyone's intelligence because, let's see here. I'm going to go to the cops when the director of the FBI just threatened me.
But she didn't even really know who Mueller was, apparently.
He claimed he was with the FBI.
Yeah, well, but...
He said he was a cop.
He said he was a cop.
He said he was a cop first, and then later said he was in the FBI.
And then she didn't realize the importance of him until this year.
Well, she was a 25-year-old kid at the time. She probably didn't know what it meant to be director of the FBI or wouldn't understand.
What did she do? What's her biography? What did she do? Was she a lawyer, a secretary? What does she do now? Where does she live?
Is she home?
Is she home? Let's try to figure. Can you fill her out a little bit, please?
Yeah.
You gave us her name, so obviously the first thing we're all going to do is go search for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spelled differently.
Is it Caroline or Caroline?
Is that
Hang on.
E or not? Y, I think.
Excuse me.
Sorry for a typo of this one.
Is her name spelled with an E or is it not? Because
It's spelled with an E.
it is spelled with an E.
That's right. That's right.
Wait,
Okay.
this-
Hang on. Okay. Hold your horses.
CAROLYNE or CAROLINE?
We'll figure it out. Okay.
Well, you don't even know her name. You don't even know her name.
You brought us out here. Tell us her name and all the
Her name
identifying
is right
information.
below. If I need to spell it out for you, then you're having a lot of trouble. Hang on.
What about the other two women you say that you have information on? What about them? Where are they? The two women. You say you now have credible allegations.
Wait, can we get the cast?
Her name has.
Can we not move on the cast and establish?
Hang on. Miss Cass is a fashion designer. She's well educated. She comes from a good family. She is a gal who has an illustrious background.
She
She's
in Los
not
Angeles?
politically oriented.
Is she in Los Angeles?
That's where she's from. That's right.
Can you tell us about her background? You say she comes from a great background. What exactly?
She's gone to schools all over the world. She has.
What schools has she gone to?
Could you name some of them? Name some of the schools, please.
We're going to get into all of this, guys. Sure. So she's attended Parsons at NYU, for instance, right? And she got.
She went to the Art Institute of Dallas.
Right.
You said she comes from a great family. What are her parents' names?
I'm not going to give you her parents' names. That way you can start harassing.
Wait,
hang on, Oliver. Hang on, Oliver. Oliver.
Did we get a clear spelling?
As you know, you called. Hang on, Oliver. I'm addressing you. You called up my 11-year-old sister over and over again. You called up my 17-year-old sister over and over again. You harassed my mother over and over again, and I'm not going to allow that to happen to Miss Cass.
You said that she found
No, you called underage teens over and over again.
That's the calls to a 7-year-old. That's pretty bad.
All right.
You said that you found her
prior to when?
Prior to when did she contact you?
Earlier this year.
So you had Angie's List or Craigslist ads up?
Earlier this year, yeah.
Without an E on her name, is it Carolyn or Caroline?
Wait, very important question.
Confirm this is her signature here?
The signature has an E on it.
Mr. Burkman's incorrect. Her name is spelled with an E.
Oh, with an E. Okay, it's with an E. I don't know. No,
I'm sorry for the
So it's
confusion.
CAROLYNE.
That's correct. You got it.
CAS.
That's right. Okay.
I don't have my glasses, so you're going to have to give me a pass.
So are you saying that Miss Cass comes from a very good family, very well educated,
Good background.
good background?
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things I look
But this
into.
is the first time she heard of Robert Mueller was what? September 15th, 2018? Is that what you're saying?
That's right. She doesn't read the news. So a lot of people don't read the news. You guys, it's tough for us in this bubble to believe this. My mom doesn't read the news. My mom doesn't read the newspaper. She doesn't watch television.
Does she follow you on Twitter?
No, she doesn't. She doesn't have a Twitter, actually. Good question.
Does she watch Jimmy Kimmel?
All right, let's take one more question.
Are you representing her?
Yes.
So
One
you
more
formally
question.
you have an agreement. There's
Let's go over there in the
paperwork,
black.
all that. Could you share that
One
with
last
us?
question. Hang on.
Okay.
This is just going back to how she got in contact with you because, that's such an important thing.
It's such an important detail. I agree with you.
Right. So you have to understand that the credibility of her finding you is a little bit called into place when you have images of actors and models on your website.
Let me address that. There's been a flurry of fake profiles created on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on Facebook, other places. One of them, which I got a good laugh out of, was a LinkedIn profile called Jacob Wohl, Surefire Intelligence. Had a picture of me wearing a corn, some kind of corn costume that they had edited on. So there's all kinds of fake profiles. Some of them have apparently pictures of, I saw Leonardo DiCaprio's ex-girlfriend in one of them. Really strange.
The backstory here really is insane. Let me say one thing. The backstory here with all this is fake. Let me just. I got to tell you guys, the backstory is really it's started out as tragedy. It's devolving into farce. I mean, first of all, you have people that don't exist. Then you have all these crazy pictures and Photoshop pictures. And I mean, what amazes me is that the press does not understand that campaigns have college kids that do this crap every day of the week, and somehow every cable news channel in the country decided to go on air with this stuff without even talking to any of the people. I can't be more amazed.
So is that Surefire Intelligence website real? Is that like, is
The
that
one that goes to your mother's voicemail?
Yeah.
That one's real?
and that doesn't have actual offices?
I know you guys want to talk about me to distract from the accusations here.
Just tell us that the website
Hang on.
is
Hang
We're
on.
trying to establish your bona fides, so explain them.
What bona
She,
fides?
she found you, so
The
you have to
website,
professional
the website,
investigative
hang on. You can impugn my
I'm
experience
not
later.
impugning you, I'm stating a fact.
You are. So, the website is very real. It's on the internet. You can go to the website. You can do whatever you'd like with the website.
But
that's
is
really
the
the
website that
answer.
directly represents Surefire Intelligence.
That's right. SurefireIntelligence.com represents Surefire Intelligence.
Jake, can you say
What
what
one
do
your
Wall
officers-
Street for Surefire Intelligence?
Sorry, what did you?
All right.
Guys, I think today, all right, I tell you what, I'm
Are
going to
you
take.
both prepared for federal
Hold on
prison?
one second, guys. Hold on one second. We're going to take 2 more questions, and that's it. Gentleman in the back. Yes, sir.
Are you both prepared for federal prison?
No, we are not. Will, I'll give you the last.
Oh, no,
All right, then we'll give.
Who hasn't asked one?
Let's go to the gentleman in the purple in the back. You haven't had a chance. You.
What coordination or communication do you have with anyone in the White House?
I'll address that.
Absolutely
Very
not.
simply.
I have not.
Absolutely zero communication with the White House, any of the White House's proxies.
The
or
Trump
anything else.
campaign?
What about your father? Does your father have any
Wait, I just want to
communication
be,
with the White
this
House?
is,
Guys, you can do a gaggle outside if you want to. We're wrapped here.
wait, Jacob, just to be fair to you, when everybody reached out to you and asked you if you were part of Surefire Intelligence when the whole thing was breaking, you told and you tweeted you had nothing to do with it.
I didn't tweet anything about Surefire.
But now you're saying that you only did that because of security reasons, right?
That's right. In order
Okay.
to bring the investigation to a conclusion, until the press conference, I preserved that level of pseudonymity.
But you
That's
remember
right.
Are you aware that
what you said earlier, right? Did that get investigation started?
Guys, you know what? We're going to wrap it. Thank you.
Well,
Thank you all.
We'll see you guys
We're
over
done.
Hey,
Thank you
Jeff,
guys
were
very
you aware
much.
when you filed this police report?
I sure will. You betcha.
Where did
Thank you guys. We've done all we can do. Thank you so much.
That's right. Okay. No problem, man. Have a
And
nice
then,
day.
are your offices on Connecticut
What
Avenue?
month you began advertising for Surefire? Within a 3-month span.
Probably the around the beginning of this year is what I want to say, roughly. January or February. And now it's the best known opposition research firm in the world.
And how many other clients did you get?
Much less the most
Why are you
famous
guys
consulting
Why are
firm
you
in
guys
the world.
not? Why are you guys not answering questions?
Well, we covered. We can go on for 5 hours.
Well, there are a lot of things you guys haven't explained.
We've done enough, guys.
You haven't answered.
We have another conference coming soon. When? With Caroline.
You know, this is something you always do, Dad. You always say there's another press conference where you're really going to give us the
Well, you've been a nice guy, but I've got to say.
No, that's not conspiracy, by the way.
It worked out well.
Where's your witness for that? You said you were witness last time. We're going to bring your only witness.
Caroline today, not other matters.
This seems like a pretty easy question to
That's
answer.
credibility because you your credibility. You
Oh,
bring
my credibility.
You bring.
Come
you
on
said
out,
you're gonna
guys.
bring witnesses.
We've got some civilians.
Hey, Jacob, do you have a PI license?
All right, let's haul.
Jacob is more brilliant, Will, than you could imagine.
Oh, hey, I don't
He
doubt
is
it, but I'm
brilliant.
curious about whether he has a PI license, which would seem to be pretty important if he's advertising himself as an investigator.
I'll answer your question. On matters which require a PI license, we work with licensed PIs.
What about
Like who?
What about So you don't have one?
Facebook stock. Like one Facebook stock.
Oh, hey, nice to meet you. She's a friendly. Hey, come on, get out of here, dude.
She doesn't look like she does on
All right, come on. You're triggered. It's okay. All right, you can leave. All right.
I do feel bad.
Come on, have a nice day.
Male feminist.
Can you explain how this well-vetted report?
You've got a liberal feminist, right? All right, come on.
I thought the Mozart of PI business can't spell.
All right, let's move here.
Even the Declaration of Independence said misspelling. Did you know that? The original draft of the Constitution had misspelling. You don't know that.
Cassandra, give me a call and we'll chat later.
Thank you.
It's hey,
Oh, hey, man.
David Beast.
Hey, awesome.
It's Will Summers, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, what's your name? Oh, awesome. Good to meet you. Oh, yeah. Have a good life. You might be
Dude,
going to
get
jail.
away from me. Oh my god. That dude just touched me and I wanted to kick him in the balls. I did not. Behaving today.
falling apart the other day.
You might be famous.
Do I follow this? Alright. I might lose service because I'm in the garage. I don't want to show their license plate.
No set today. No other issues of public policy except your life. Mine. Sir. All right.
Alright, that's all good. So that's Claude Taylor over there with the rat. He posts revenge porn of people he doesn't like. He's the guy that I warned not to touch me earlier on my Periscope. Raging piece of shit that guy is. I'm gonna leave before I assist somebody, but I'm going to Periscope in case he says anything to me.